Hey there, how's it going? I am out here in Berkeley, California, and things are not pretty. Let me see if I can, I don't know, see the sky? Oh my gosh, 1:28 p.m. and it's dark, dark outside with this orange haze. So I feel like I'm in a bit of a mood, right? It's amazing how much sunshine affects our moods. It really, really does. So excited to come here to you guys because I feel like this is going to be a really raw conversation. So thank you very, very much for joining me. I'm answering a question for this week's episode of your promotability factor, where I answer your most pressing questions about getting promoted into senior executive leadership roles. And this week's question is actually from Larissa, and she said, um, where did it see? This is how weird today is. I'm like, where did her question go? So she says, how can I make the most of my participation in executive team meetings? I've been invited to the table, and how do I make it count? And my quick answer today is you create a strategy for the meetings themselves. So I'm going to be sharing with you today some of that strategy that you can actually create. And before I get into that, let me just introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Stacey Mayer. I'm from Stacey Mayer Coaching, and I coach corporate managers to get promoted into senior executive leadership roles. I am on a mission to bring more diversity to the leadership table by getting 1,000 managers promoted each and every year worldwide. So if you're listening to me today and you are somebody that wants to make it into the executive ranks of leadership, you have come to the right place. So as I mentioned at the top of this episode, it's going to be pretty raw. It's dark out here in Northern California if you're just joining us. And I am praying for the people who are losing their homes and the trees and the land and everything. It's just really nuts out here. But that's like actually leads me into the first part of this conversation, which is that life is hard, right? We work as leaders at our organizations really, really, really hard. And getting a seat at the table is a goal that many of you probably have. You want to be in the room where it happens. You want to be where decisions are made, and you want to be a part of that leadership team conversation. But as Larissa pointed out, it's not enough to be invited to the executive team meetings. It's not enough to get a seat at the table. You also must have a voice at the table. And this is actually where my work comes in. I coach corporate managers to have a voice at the table. And that is how they're able to get promoted into those senior executive roles. So if it's unfortunate, right, that we have to work so hard, what ends up happening to us, right? We work really, really hard. And what we're thinking is the destination is actually the leadership table. When in reality, it's just the next rung in the ladder. It's just the next part of the process. So once we make it into that executive boardroom, we still have a whole slew of challenges in front of us so that we can actually get our voice heard. So today's episode is going to be giving you those skills that are actually going to teach you how to get your voice heard once you actually get the seat at the table. So that leads me into my first tip for you guys today, which is that you deserve to be there, right? You have worked hard. You have earned your seat at the table. So what ends up happening is, in order to get in the executive boardroom, you have to have a ton of confidence, right? You have to be really outspoken about your ideas. You have to be outspoken to your team. You have to negotiate for your team, for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself in order to get that seat at the table. You had to have a ton of confidence to get there. And then you get there and all that confidence goes out the window. You're like, oh my gosh, do I even know what I'm doing? I have all of these people in this room who don't look like me, who don't act like me, that don't think like me. Do I even deserve to be in this room, right? And the first way that you're going to be able to learn how to continue speaking up at executive meetings is to realize that you deserve it. You were put there for a reason. Your organization wants and needs you in that room. So, okay, I deserve a seat at this table. I deserve to have my voice heard at the executive team meetings. It's not enough, again, to just have a seat at the table. You also need to be able to communicate once you get there. So the second thing that you're going to do is develop this strategy, right? That is the work that I talk about with my clients in how to actually be able to communicate their ideas and to be able to speak up in a room that doesn't look, act, or think like them. So two things only to this strategy. First thing, meeting before the meeting, right? So you need to understand what you want to get out of that meeting. So if you have a meeting coming up and you need to know what is the outcome, what is the best thing that could happen to me in this executive team meeting. And that could be speaking up. That could be my goal of this meeting is to interject when I have an idea. My goal in this meeting is to speak to the vision and not just give tactical updates. So whatever that goal is, whatever you want that outcome to be, my goal of this meeting is to have somebody call on me. My goal in this meeting is to speak for more than just 2 minutes, right? Whatever that goal is of that meeting, set a goal, right? Actually have a 5 minutes with yourself before every single executive meeting. What do you want to get out of this meeting? And be really careful, because your tendency might be to just be like, oh, I'm just going to give my check-ins and I'm just going to do and respond in whatever way comes up, right? So that might be your tendency. But if that's working for you, great. But if it's not working for you and you don't feel like you're really having a voice like the rest of the people in the room, then you need to switch it up. You need to come up with a different type of goal for how you're going to show up in that meeting, right? And the second thing that you're going to do in terms of meeting before the meeting is enlist allies. So this can be done in so many different ways. So let's say you have the leader of the meeting. You want to have a meeting with that person before the meeting, and you want to actually have a conversation with that person about what their goals and objectives are, right? You just want to talk to them briefly, even if it's like 5 minutes before the meeting. It could be a quick chat, a quick check-in with somebody, so that, because one of the things I've been talking about a lot on my podcast right now is that now that we're working remotely, we don't have the opportunity to pass people in the hallway as we're walking into the meetings. And that's when trust is built in those relationships. That's when you build trust, is in between the meetings. So it could just be a 5-minute quick check-in with Carol before the meeting to ask her about her life, right? It could just be a meeting like that to help build that trust, right? Whatever that situation is. And then also, don't be afraid to offer up what you want to get across in that meeting. So if you have somebody, maybe it's not the team lead, but maybe it's a peer that you just want to check in with, and you're like, oh, I've been wanting to talk about this, and I hope to be able to share this at this meeting, especially if that peer is somebody that generally has a voice at the table. You can actually just tell them, hey, if the opportunity comes up, can you say something? Can you say that I have an opinion about this, right? Like maybe I was talking to Larissa before the meeting and she mentioned something about XYZ, like see what she has to say, right? There is no shame in any of these techniques, because you, going back to number one, deserve a seat at that table. It is important for the executives in the room to hear your voice. And this is something that you're going to have to actually go out and do. You have to create a communication strategy. You have to actually go out and get it. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, yes, Stacy, great, I'm ready to create a communication strategy, then I'd like to invite you to get on a free conversation with me. I offer free career strategy sessions. You can apply for them. They're by application only at stacymayer.com/apply. There you'll see the application just submit it, right? We'll talk about what your particular communication strategy could look like. And if I can support you to help get you to not only have a voice at that table, but to the next level of leadership, because that is when you'll be able to make the impact and you'll be able to bring up and elevate other voices at your particular organization. They need you at the top. Your organization needs you at the top. And it does matter to have you in that executive position. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you're safe wherever you are in this crazy world today. Take care. Bye.